The first thing that is essential if you're going to discover God's plan for your life and fulfill His purpose is you need to focus on your now responsibilities, not your next opportunity. Many people miss their purpose because they're focused on the next thing, not the now thing. I don't know how many people I've met, they're always talking about what's going to happen next, what they're going to do next, what's going to happen 5 years from now or 2 years from now or somewhere down the line. They're thinking in the future, and certainly nothing wrong with making plans for your future. But the reality is this: you can't live in tomorrow, you can only live in today. And God works in the now. God is a now God, and God's purpose is always discovered in the present. You can't live tomorrow. You're not even promised tomorrow. But God says, I want you, if you're going to get to your tomorrows, you need to do what you need to do today, right now in your life. Joseph in the Old Testament is a great example of this. When Joseph was 17 years old, God gave him a dream for his future. He dreamed that he was going to be a ruler. He saw it very clearly in multiple dreams that God gave him, that he was going to one day be a ruler. He could have gotten sidetracked and become so dream-oriented that he would have missed that opportunity. But instead, Joseph made the choice to live every day faithfully. Right after getting this dream, you can read about this in Genesis chapters 39, 40, and 41 if you'd like to read it later this week. But in this moment, is after Joseph receives this dream, his brothers become jealous of him and they end up selling him into slavery, and Joseph is delivered down as a slave into Egypt. He's bought by a man named Potiphar, and he's brought into Potiphar's house. And in that moment, Joseph could have become bitter and angry about how life seemed to be turning out for him, but instead, he applied himself to the present moment. The present moment was he was a slave in Egypt, and so he made the decision, I'm going to be the best servant that Potiphar has ever seen. And so he begins to serve Potiphar's household so diligently and so faithfully that Potiphar says, I've never seen a guy like you before. In fact, I'm going to put the whole management of my household in your hands. And out of that, Joseph began to manage that household of Potiphar, because Potiphar was a very wealthy man. He learned a lot about how to extend and exercise management in that season of his life, because he gave himself to the now, to the present. Well, if you've read the story, you know what happens next. Potiphar's wife has lust after Joseph and falsely accuses him of rape, and he ends up going from being a slave in Potiphar's house to going to prison, falsely accused. Joseph could have again been very bitter about this because he had this dream of being a ruler. Things didn't seem to be turning out the way he planned. He ended up as a slave in Potiphar's house. Now he's a prisoner in Pharaoh's jail. And so as he's there, instead of becoming bitter, he applies himself to his situation. He does everything he can do in the now to be the best prisoner that Pharaoh has ever had in jail. And so he does such a great job that actually the head of that prison says, Joseph, I'm going to put everything in your charge. You're so trustworthy. You now are in charge of the prison. You can run this for me. I know you're a prisoner, but you're also in charge of the prison. So there you see that Joseph applied himself to the situation that he was in, and he did the best that he could in the situation where God had placed him. And ultimately, he comes out of prison and becomes the prime minister of Egypt and fulfills the purpose for which God designed him. But Joseph would have never fulfilled God's purpose had he not lived in the now.